The investigation of the biggest scandal of corruption in Brazil, Banestado, started in 1997 when Celso Tres, the federal investigator, the federal prosecutor of Brazil in charge of the case, discovered that between 1991 and 1996, $125 billion had been transferred from Brazil to the United States by Banestado CC5 accounts. Later on, that number was increased to $221 billion from 1991 to 2002. That was the biggest scandal case in Brazil and one of the biggest all over the world. You have the right to know the truth.
The money laundering scheme mainly took place from the Foz do Iguaçu branch of Banestado, by then called Bank of Paraná State. This city is located in a strategic location, namely the triple frontier region shared between Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay. Through so-called CC5 accounts, the doleiros, or money exchangers, who are actually black market dollar dealers linked to bank and government officials, use the big network of bank accounts under the names of straw men or ghost companies to launder illegal funds from public corruption, fraud, and organized crime. This mainly happened through the Bank of the State of Paraná and Foz do Iguaçu, and all of this soon became immortalized as the Banestado case. The federal investigation was going really nowhere until 2001, when the then federal police superintendent, José Antônio Castilho, found that most funds had actually landed in accounts at the Banestado agency in New York. Castillo arrived in New York in January 2002 to perform the necessary international money tracking. Through a court order, Castillo and his team reviewed 137 accounts at the New York Banestado, tracking $14.9 billion. In some cases, the names of the beneficiaries matched the names of Brazilian politicians who served in Congress, ministers, and even former presidents. After a month in New York, Castillo returned to Brazil with a 400-page report. However, despite overwhelming evidence, he was removed from the investigation, which ended up being suspended for at least another year. When the new Lula administration took over in early 2003, Castillo returned to the investigation. In April 2003, Castillo identified an interesting account at Chase Manhattan Bank called Tucano. This was the nickname of the PSDB party led by former President Fernando Henrique Cardoso, who was in power before Lula and who had maintained very close ties to the Clinton political machines in the United States and to Blair in England. Although Castillo never took possession of this critical document, at least 2 Brazilian congressmen, 2 senators, and 2 federal prosecutors did. The federal prosecutors who would later become stars in the investigation of Operation Car Wash, Vladimir Arras and Carlos Fernando dos Santos Lima. According to an article published in Isto É magazine on September 3, 2003, Carlos Fernando had since 1998 maintained a very detailed dossier on the Banestado case and a list of 107 people who appear in the criminal complaint due to illegal dollar remittances through this particular New York agency. His wife, Vera Lúcia dos Santos Lima, worked in the account opening department of the Banestado branch in Foz do Iguaçu. The disclosure had been made in 1996 by Dario Messer, the king of doleiros, or money exchangers. Messer was also accused of embezzling $228,300 from a New York Banestado agency account. In his written defense, he not only admitted the diversion, but he revealed details of this fundraising scheme and illegal remittances of money abroad, listing the same 107 accounts at that agency in New York. The why and how this document, this so-called body bag, disappeared from the criminal proceedings is one of the many extra mysteries involved in this whole riddle of the biggest corruption scandal in Brazil. The clue is that Arás and Santos Lima maneuvered it so that the document would never be made public.
Meanwhile, there are unconfirmed reports, several sources would not record this, that the document about the 107 accounts could have been used for the total extortion of individuals, especially billionaires who were on the list. And as an extra sauce in the judicial sphere, there is the fact that the judge of the first instance in charge of Barry Banestado case was none less than Sergio Moro, the same one who was the star of Lava Jato operation, car wash operation 10 years later, and also the Minister of Justice of Bolsonaro. All of the companies starting to make deals with the economy institutions. No one was punished and no one went to jail. Neither entrepreneurs nor managers. All ended in a very big pizza.
The investigation was closed in December 2004. In 2005, the Mensalão scandal came on the scene, killing two birds with a single stone. They facilitated the defeat of the PT in the elections that would take place at the end of the year, and the return of the right, or at least imposed the entry of the PMDB in the PT government, which is what ended up happening. At the same time, the main promoter of the investigations, Global Network, shifted its focus from the Banestado scandal with the support of the entire political system, including the so-called left parties that, as it turned out, were also involved. The Marinho brothers, the owners of Global Network, had been one of the main participants in that mafia scheme. Sergio Moro never indicted the king of doleiros money exchangers, Dario Messer, despite the plea bargaining statements of several Odebrecht executives confirming his involvement. It is not a secret that doleiros, money exchangers who operate on the triple border, are connected with the cocaine trafficking from Paraguay. Some evangelical sects are also involved in the scheme. It is the so-called Coke Evangelistan. Foz do Iguaçu is one of the main centers of the black operations of the CIA and Mossad, which have very explosive ramifications. Delegate Castillo referred to the existence of $17 million that had been transferred to the Banestado agency in New York and that were then moved to Pakistan. He discovered this a few months after the September 11 attacks. The connections of war drug trafficking controlled by US imperialism and Israel finally meet the CIA heroin management in Afghanistan. Dario Messer represents Sergio Moro's missing link. Moro himself is an asset of the FBI or the CIA or the Department of Justice.
Commissioner José Antonio Castillo was instrumental in creating a parliamentary commission of inquiry on the Banestado case. But again, that commission went nowhere. There was not even a vote on a final report. In the next chapter, we'll bring some behind-the-scenes details on how it all ended in a big pizza again in Congress, with the active participation of all Brazilian political parties. You have the right to know the truth.